Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of High Velocity Radio, and this is going to be a good one. Today on the show we have Randy Lyman. He is the purpose-driven leader with the third element. Welcome.
Hello, Lee. Good to be here with you.
Well, I'm excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us about your practice. How you serving folks?
Well, the latest way I'm serving folks is my new book, The Third Element, The Missing Key to the Law of Attraction. And in that, I give people an opportunity to understand a little bit better the rules of the game of life. I'm also doing personal coaching and corporate coaching.
So what's your backstory? How'd you get involved in this line of work?
Well, 35 years ago, at the age of 28, I was a left-brain scientist and engineer and entrepreneur with multiple million-dollar businesses. I was very successful, but I wasn't necessarily happy and fulfilled. I met a woman by the name of Maria, who I spent 3 years with, and she opened my eyes to a different way of looking at the world from a little more of the unseen, the emotional, spiritual side of life. And as I learned more about that, I was so intrigued and drawn in. I started applying what I was learning, and my success in the material world just blossomed.
So, you were already working at the time. What about what she was saying unlocked something inside of you?
Well, she helped me see that everything around us is a mirror of what's inside of us, and the universe is creating our reality for us every moment based on our thoughts, our actions, and our emotions. And the emotional part was the part I was not aware of. So I was doing all I could to be educated and to work hard and put in the hours and serve my customers, but I wasn't aware of the emotional side of being human. So any old emotions I had, negative emotions I was hanging on to subconsciously, they kind of crept into my world and they kept me from being the best I could be. And once I started to uncover those and address those, I was able to really multiply the effectiveness of my thoughts and my actions.
So what was kind of the first emotion that you were dealing with that gave you this kind of aha moment?
Well, for me, it was a combination of anger and frustration. Underneath that was sadness, but I was doing all I could to find success, and the world wasn't responding to the way I thought it should. And to me, that was very frustrating. I was again, intelligent. I was working hard, but I wasn't getting the rewards I knew were possible in the material world. And once I went through a few emotional healings, I went to a 4-day communications workshop for business communications. And the third day, we went through an exercise that got me to a level of feeling of something I experienced 12 years earlier that a family member had said that had hurt me. And I subconsciously pushed that down and believed if I was competent in the material world, I would get their approval. Well, that really worked well to motivate me to material success, but I needed to feel that emotion. And so when I did in this workshop, it was it was a huge upheaval. It was a very dramatic moment for me. It was kind of an icebreaker for the group. And I went through the emotions around what my uncle had said to me about wishing I was more like a friend of mine, and I wasn't who I was. That's how I heard what they had to say. So I went through this emotional release. And 4 days later, when I went back to work, then my world changed. All the people around me who had previously been incompetent suddenly became competent, or they left my life. And being a physicist, being a scientist, it's always cause and effect for me. And I saw the cause was my emotional release, and the effect was my relationships changed. And that changed my life. I started looking at everything differently.
So when you say there was an emotional release, how did that show itself? Did you throw a chair? Did you break a window? Did you cry? like what occurred?
I broke down and cried like a little kid would cry. And I was an adult man. I'm a logical, successful guy. But that emotion that hides within us hides in what a lot of people refer to as the inner child. So there's our adult ego self, ego not in a bad way, but our adult personality. There's our higher self, I believe our soul that comes through our intuition and other ways we connect with our higher soul. And then the third is that inner child. Now, the inner child isn't just a useless child. The inner child is joy and creativity and excitement and a lot of things we need in life, especially the creativity part. So we don't want to kill the child. We don't want the child to run the show. But that inner child in me that was hanging on to that pain was able to finally release it. So I cried the tears in front of a room of 15 people, and it was just so pure, there was no embarrassment.
So how did your physicist brain handle kind of this spiritual awakening?
Well, I was so intrigued by Maria, my partner at the time, and the things she was teaching me, and just the way she saw the world from such a place of purity. She saw God in everybody. She saw love in every situation, and I wasn't able to do that because of my own clouded judgment based on my own emotional wounds. And so her world worked for her. When she wanted something, it worked out. Her life just flowed very smoothly, and my life was a constant battle. And I didn't want the battle anymore. So even though I didn't understand how she was approaching life, I saw how she was easily able to achieve results. And that's what I wanted. And that's what engaged my scientific mind to figure out what the heck is going on here? What am I missing?
Now, was she achieving the same level of materialistic results you were achieving?
No, she wasn't the same level of materialistic results, but with regards to friends and business relationships and health improvements and just synchronicity in her life flowed. Now, she had lower expectations than me, and she didn't have the same financial rewards, but she had a sense of calm and ease and fulfillment. And that's what I was missing. Even with all the financial and business achievement and success, I was missing that level of calm and fulfillment.
But you weren't trying to, that wasn't what you were after.
No, that wasn't what I was after, but that's what I knew I was missing. Because if you've met and you've been a very successful person, I think you realize that material success does not bring happiness. Material success does not bring fulfillment. Momentarily, it does, and it brings a lot of comfort. And I love material success. Don't get me wrong, but that the emptiness that I felt inside from not being connected to the people around me and feeling like I needed to achieve more in order to be happy, that's what I wanted to move past, to move through and move past. And I wanted that sense of fulfillment that she had.
So in your mind before her, I guess you equated, if I got these material things, then I would get this kind of inner peace. And then
absolutely, because I believe that.
Right. So it's that cause and effect. You said, if I do this, then I'll get that.
But I was told, but that's not the way the game works. And you know, a lot of very successful people who are not happy. And so the happiness is that we achieve through material success is fleeting. It's momentary. It doesn't stay with us, because even when we're successful, we still have to drive in traffic. We still have to talk to people we don't necessarily care to talk to. We still need to
bad things happen to everybody, and challenging things happen to everybody. There's people that have a lot of wealth and are unhappy, and there's people that don't have a lot of wealth and are unhappy. I mean, I don't know if there's a correlation between all of those things, but when you're adding this type of spirituality into your coaching and in helping other people, I guess, get to new levels, how do you kind of help them understand that this might be what's missing and this is what's keeping them from maybe achieving the levels, even if those levels are materialistic, or is part of your practice trying to, maybe de-emphasize some of the materialistic?
Well, I'm not against material success. I love material success. So what I do with left brain people and most people is I start out by, let's write down the problems and challenges you have in life. What do you want to see different, or what do you want to see added, or what do you want to see gone? What changes would you like to see? And first we talk about what we want to change. And then we say, can we do this simply through your current methods? And then the third level is, aside from the second level being the approach, the third level is, what does this feel like? Does it feel frustrating? Does it feel agonizing? Do you feel jealousy? What do you feel around this situation? So the mind has to work through it one step at a time. So outside problem. Second thing, what can I do? Third thing, what do I feel? And then if there are emotional feelings behind all this, and people think emotions are bad. No, they're not. They're natural. So we talk then about the feelings, and we talk about the reason we have emotions and the value of those. And then we talk about the emotions that we didn't feel completely in the past. That energy is still with us, and we are able to release that energy through some specific techniques. So we take a left-brained approach to emotions. I'm still a scientist and I'm still left-brained. And that's the simplistic approach that I take.
So you're saying that there's some simple ABC steps that anybody could take in order to get a deeper understanding of the inner emotions that maybe are holding us back?
Absolutely. There's steps we can take. And in my new book, The Third Element, I outline, first of all, why. Because we're not going to go down a tunnel that has no light at the end of the tunnel. So the first thing I do is give people some understanding of the light at the end of the tunnel, and why should I even open Pandora's box of my emotions. So understanding is where we start.
So when a person comes to you, are you doing active coaching right now, or are you primarily, talking and selling your book?
I'm primarily talking and selling my book. I'm working with a few people on active coaching, but primarily I'm selling my book. But what's your question?
So I'm just wondering, when a person comes to you, are they coming to you because, hey, my business is struggling, or are they coming to you with, hey, I'm not feeling joy anymore? Like, what's kind of the impetus to begin a relationship with you or learn more about what your book says?
Any form of stalled progression or success. If they're looking for a change and they're not finding progress and they're not finding success and they just don't know what else to try, that's when I come in.
So it may not be, hey, sales are down. Like that's not a problem you're trying to solve, or if you do this might solve that problem too.
Well, this solves that problem too. So I'm very well versed in conventional business coaching and conventional management and leadership and all that. And I believe in all that. That at a deeper level, when we're doing all the things we know we should be doing, and we're applying the techniques we've learned that worked in the past or worked for others, and we're hitting a wall, and we're just, these techniques I know should be effective are not effective, then we go a level deeper of, okay, what needs to be felt, and how do I need to change my thought process and my thought patterns, and where's my opportunity to feel something from the past I'm ready to release.
And then once you identify it, and I'm assuming you have some techniques that'll help a person release those emotions, then once they're released, is that it? You're done? Now I have closure, I can move on? Or is there something else you have to do to kind of, heal the wound that's been opened?
Well, there's levels to it. So if the person gets even 50% of the way through it, their life's going to be better. And some things I'm still working on after 30 years. But when we have a breakthrough of any sort, small or large, in my experience, the physical world around us responds and improves. Now, we still need to show up and do the work and think positive thoughts and make active decisions and do the work. But that work becomes more effective as we heal the old emotions. Oh, the other thing I want to say, Lee, is we don't need to understand the emotions. We just need to feel whatever it is, process it through our feelings in our body, and release it. Now, it can be done through working out, punching a punching bag, singing, screaming at a tree, just sitting in a place in nature or in life and being grateful for the wonderful people in our life and for the things that are positive, if we get to a place of feeling at any level of emotion, and we're able to breathe and work through that without blocking the feeling, our life improves.
Now, what do you tell the person who says, I don't, I'm not a crier, or I'm not a feelings person? There's plenty of people out there that feel, I don't know if it's shame or embarrassment or what the rationale is, why they almost take pride in not showing emotion.
Well, I can speak to that from my own perspective. So I was taught by the world around me that if I showed emotion, I was weak. Now, we can show emotion and not be weak. They're two separate things. But I learned that if I'm emotional at all, then I'm going to be seen as weak. And as men, our position is to provide and protect. And as men navigating the world, it's important that we are respected. So I'm not just going to break down and sob in front of people who don't understand. And I don't need to break down and sob every time, but I'm exaggerating here. And I don't make decisions based on emotions, and I'm not an emotional person. I'm still a logical, reasonable take action person. The reason I'm sharing the message is because it's been so useful for me, and I understand it so well as from a person who was completely left brain, who's now much more balanced. So men have to be respected. Men are worried that we're going to lose our effectiveness if we feel our emotions. Now, we can feel our emotions without being overly emotional. We're not going to make decisions based on emotions, but we can show up more compassionate, more caring. We can be more vulnerable in the way that we share. Yeah, I've made some mistakes in the past, and working with a team, I don't want to make these mistakes. How do we work together as a team? Together being a key word, together as a team to navigate this. And so I don't have to show up as a leader. I don't have to show up perfect. I don't have to show up with all the answers. And yet, when I help other people achieve success, they respect me and they see me as a leader and they get behind me as a leader. So leadership is not about barking orders or being the smartest guy in the room. Leadership is about helping the group achieve success through individuals in the group achieving success and through the group overall achieving success. And I can do that from a place of calm and confidence without having to exercise the power of my title.
Now, early on, when you started answering this, you mentioned that that men are taught, I guess, through the world or whatever, just through life, that they shouldn't show emotion. They shouldn't, that's that equates to weakness, or they could think that. But earlier you mentioned that if they would just spend time by themselves in nature, or with these kind of emotions, and show the emotion. Like, why is it difficult for them to even show emotion when they're alone? Like, there's no one judging them except themselves. There's nobody embarrassing them. They're by themselves. That if they can't still show emotion alone, isn't that seems to me a bigger problem?
Right. And great question. Thank you for clarifying your question. I didn't hear that correctly. You said it right. I didn't hear it right the first time. So here's the deal. The emotions are so big, we're afraid they're going to continue forever and they're going to take us over. That's one of the challenges, because we need to be as men, we need to be in control. And we've seen people who are emotional and they're out of control, and we don't necessarily realize that we can let this emotion through and move past it. And again, that's what I explained in the book. And then the other thing is, it's painful sometimes, even if it's something small from the past. And I was not abused and I didn't go through all the emotional challenges many people did. But when those memories come up of being embarrassed or shame or whatever that might be, they hurt. They're overwhelming. And our ego is designed, not like I have a big ego, I'm a narcissist. Just the personality part of our ego mind says that it's going to protect us from any pain, whether it's picking up a hot piece of wood off the campfire, it's going to hurt, or whether I feel my emotions alone someplace in a safe place, it's going to hurt, and that part of our brain protects us from that pain. I want to add one other thing, because I know you got other great questions. I say do it alone, but we can also do it with a friend or a mentor who understands, especially if we can find somebody who we connect with, who is on a similar journey of just becoming more aware of their emotions. Then we can work with somebody else, and we don't have to do it all by ourselves. But most of the time for men, we're kind of on a journey by ourselves when we start down this path.
Now, is this book primarily for men?
No, this is very generic. This is the game of life. There's only two rules. There's a few other things to understand, but there's only two rules. One is when we respond from a place of love and caring, instead of fear, we'll find an answer a lot faster. And the second is it's really based on God or the universe. Does not judge us at all. All we have is the law of attraction. And the law of attraction says things that are similar to each other vibrate, similar vibration and frequency of each other are attracted to each other. So our thoughts have a vibration, three categories or three elements. Our thoughts have a vibration, our actions have a vibration, and our emotions have a vibration. And the challenge with emotions is they're bigger than time and space. So if I had an emotional experience 2 years ago or 20 years ago, I didn't feel completely, that energy stored within me. And the universe, the law of attraction says, oh, I want you to feel better. I'm going to remind you of this old emotional energy you're holding on to. And I'm going to remind you with an irritation, with an annoyance in real time. And nobody has taught us before, hey, there's a connection between this annoyance and the opportunity to release this old emotion and make our life better with fewer annoyances. That's the book.
Now, when you came to this kind of spiritual awakening as a scientist, did you immediately say, I am going to test this thesis using scientific fundamentals? Am I going to double blind test this? I'm going to do some research. I'm going to really hold this hypothesis to the scientific method.
So the best I can explain a scientific method was whenever I had an irritation and I set my intention on finding the underlying emotional issue that was related to that outside irritation or challenge in my life, every single time, 100% of the time I attempted to do this, I succeeded. I didn't always understand the reason, but as soon as I felt whatever I needed to feel and release that emotional energy, the outside world changed 100% of the time. So I guess part of the double blind test is there was problems I tried to fix in my life, like relationships with vendors through logic and reason, and I got nowhere for months. And then that part of me kicks in and says, Randy, you know better than this. You got to look at the emotion. And I go and look at the emotion, and I do one of my exercise, tapping, journaling. There's 14 different exercises in chapter 7 of the book. And I would go through one of the exercises, and I get to a place of feeling. I don't have to bawl. I don't have to cry. Sometimes I get just a feeling in my body. Sometimes I'll get a tear in my eye. That's it. But I had a tangible physical feeling come through where I changed that old emotional energy into a physical action or feeling of heat. Then the problem went away. So I'd work on a problem for weeks or months. It would not resolve itself. Again, I remember, hey, go back to the emotion. I feel the emotion. And you're talking within hours or days, the problem would be fixed.
But when this happened, I mean, as a scientist, you have to agree that when something happens anecdotally in science, people don't, take it to market. They test it. Did you go to a stranger or come up to somebody or have somebody, go through the process and test it, kind of with somebody in the wild that wasn't you?
Yes, absolutely. So coworkers I worked with, I've had got over 20 men cry at my desk, come up and see me and start talking, and I just hold that space, listen, ask a few questions, and pretty soon they're at a place where they're emotional because I'm comfortable with it. They're comfortable with it. They feel what they need to feel. I talk to them a few days later and the problem's gone. I've worked with family members. I've worked with neighbors. I've worked with friends and acquaintances and just held that space and asked questions. And when they get to that place of emotional release, again, whether it's small or large, they feel it. And then I ask them later, hey, how you doing? How's things going? God, that problem went away. And pretty much every time, I can't say for certain 100%, but pretty much every time, at least 80% of the time, those people's particular problems they were speaking to me about, where they had a chance to feel whatever they needed to feel, their problem went away. Now, we still need to address challenges. I still had to fire people. I still had to get rid of vendors. I still had to deal with lawsuits and rules and all those things in the material world. That doesn't go away. But at the same time, in order to keep that problem from recurring in my life, the emotional healing, as I call it, or experience, kept that problem from getting bigger or coming back again.
So if somebody out there is struggling and would like to give your hypothesis a go, where can people find the third element, and where can people connect with you? Is there a central website for some of this material?
There is a central website. My name, randylyman.com, all run together. Last name, Lyman. So randylyman.com. They can find access to my book. They can find access to books that I've been helpful for me, practitioners I work with for hypnotherapy and Reiki and things like that. They have access to some of my tapping exercises. But the book is the best place to start because it's so logical and reasonable and easy to understand. And I think that's the best place to start. Not because I want to sell books, because right now the ebook version is dirt cheap. I think it's just a couple bucks. And this is about helping people understand the rules of life that are pretty simple and regaining control and getting hope in their life and having faith in good and realizing I can take charge of my thoughts, my actions, work through some emotions, and my life's going to improve. So my website's the best place to start.
Well, Randy, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me on, Lee. This has been fun. Your questions have been great. I like the work you're doing.
All right. This is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on High Velocity Radio.